Jacques and Natasha. And Women in Motorsport, it's me. If you want some information on that program, I will be sitting at the table. The other experts, you can also move on the table if you want. What we try to do, in order to give the chance to most of the delegates to move and to have information, is just don't take too long. If we can change maybe after 10 minutes and go to a next subject, it would be good. And if you need to fix extra meeting, we can meet you as well at the end of the day or tomorrow as well. Thank you. Hello? Hello again? No sound? Un, deux. Yes? May I have your attention, please? I think we have nearly finished with this mid-EFI family session. I can see maybe it would be a good thing to have for the next Congress a full afternoon with the mid-EFI family. And then we can have a group, and then you have the time to change the table. And also we talk with Alain regarding motorsports disciplines. What we are doing in the European Congress, we have different workshops. We had a workshop on drifting, a workshop on rally, workshop on cross car, etc. So if you feel that it would be good to implement such of new things for the next Congress, we can do it. So just we'll distribute the satisfaction survey at the end of the Congress, or tomorrow. So just please add as comments if you will feel, if you think it's good to have some workshop and to list the items you would like that we cover. So I invite you to take appointments with the experts if you have not had the time to meet the people you wanted to meet. So please come to us at the end of the afternoon and then ask us for a slot if you want to have further discussions on different projects. So I think now we can start with the next session. Can you please remove the signs from the table and you can take your seat? Thank you very much. You have ISN development manual with Sonia. If you need some, please come to the table and take one. It's one per ISN. We have French and English. On a des manuels disponibles à la table. Si vous souhaitez qu'on envoie des manuels à vos ASN, we can send an extra copy to your ASN. Hein? Can you please equip with the headset mic John and Colin? No, hand mic is fine? Yeah? Ah, ok. C'est bon avec les hand mic. Par contre, c'est là. I would need micro for each speaker on stage. So, now we come to one of the big subjects of the Congress. If we come back to your role, why you are here, why you are an ISN or ACN, you want to organize sport. So that's your mission. You are the sole governing body with the responsibility to organize, to structure, to develop the motorsports competitions. So we know that it's not an easy task because motorsports requires it's expensive sport. It requires some different facilities. In the meantime, a lot of efforts have been made by the FIA to structure the different disciplines, the different categories. You had the chance to look the cross car, and now is the time to hear more about cross car. But we think that our role is to come to you with information and easy access to implement the disciplines in your respective country, and with the necessary information in order to have a better knowledge and to maybe to decide with all information regarding what we are doing at the FIA, then you can better decide about your motorsports pathway and which kind of disciplines would be relevant for you to develop in a rally, in a karting, in a circuit, and so on. So that's the goal of the session. So I will first invite the speakers on stage, and then I will leave my dear colleagues Colin Hilton and John Murphy, who are the two moderators of the session, to manage the question and answer session in order to have interactivity also with you and to get the question from the floor. Maybe Colin, first you can say a few words about your background.
Well, I've been in motorsport about 25 years now, I suppose. I was, for many years, chief exec of the MSA UK. Been a deputy on the World Council for Graham Stoker, actually, when Graham was our representative. Deputy president with Andrew Papadopoulos on the task force. And I've been director of the FIA's Global Institute research body for a number of years.
And deputy president of the ISN Development Task Force with Andrew. Thank you very much. So, John.
Not as impressive as that is for sure, or as experienced. Not as old, but not as impressive. John Murphy, I work at CAMS Australia. I'm our commercial director and manage our sport, club development, media, sponsorship and licensing departments. So looking forward to meeting you all.
If he's speaking really quickly, I mean,
sorry,
tell him to, because
I'll slow down.
when I started at the FIA, I remember that Australian accent was the worst for me to understand.
Oh, that's good to know. We only have 3 hours, so I'll be nice and slow.
Okay, so now just I will invite the speakers on stage. So first we have Andrew Papadopoulos, so the ISN Development President, ISN Development Task Force President. You can applaud them when they come on stage. Then Carlos Abella. Carlos Abella, so he's now FIA consultant and expert of the cross car. We have Yves Yves Maton, so the new FIA rally director. So please, Yves. And I missed someone? I think it's fine. And we have
Surinder.
And Surinder, sorry, please come on stage. Representing the development of motorsports in Africa, of course, and the association that we talked about this morning. So that's it. So Christian was supposed to be with us, but unfortunately he's with Jean for another meeting. So
we have a replacement. We're okay.
So please, thank you very much.
Okay, so perhaps Andrew, if we could kick off with your good self. We talk a lot about grassroots within motorsport, and also what is an entry level to motorsport. So we're just interested in your own idea of what is grassroots motorsport and what's the difference of entry point motorsport, entry level.
I think my idea is probably one of, we've got 19 ASNs here, so probably one of 20, because everybody's got their own idea what is grassroots, what is entry level. We have majority of, can I talk on my ASN in Australia? Majority, 80% of our sport is grassroots. So, you know, the rest is national and international motorsport, but 80% of our sport is grassroots. So when we talk about grassroots, we're talking about a sport that we can compete in at a low cost. Sorry, there's no low cost in motorsport, so at a lower cost than the high level sporting. So that's the grassroots. And you can go in there and stay there through your club, do a sprint or a hill climb or a carnacross all your life, and that's as far as you want to go, because that's where you want to go. But it also provides a grounding to move up into the ladder, into your rallying or sedan racing, touring cars, that sort of area. But again, grassroots is where we all start off. Now, in order to get to grassroots, you got to enter the sport, and that's what I call the entry level. It's a level where you can enter with your own vehicle. The vehicle you drive to work and home, you can use as a competition vehicle for low-level events. And we're talking about touring assemblies, we're talking about navigation rallies, we're talking about carnacross, gymkhana, all those areas where it's not speed-related, but you can use your vehicle in that sense. And getting people into our sport is the hardest thing to do, but it is the most important thing to do as well. So have a look at your entry level and see how we can get people into sport. Karting slalom, for example, a good initiative to get people into sport, because you can do it not necessarily in a circuit, you can do it in a car park, you can bring people in, you can bring somebody said before, we take motorsport to the people, not ask people to come to motorsport. So it's very, very easy. And you can promote karting slalom, and we talked about how important football was in Africa. Have a competition between two footballers on a karting slalom. See how many people you attract to have a look. Because if football is that high priority here, they will come and have a look. So just think of ideas of how we can get people involved in motorsport, but that's my definition of grassroots and entry level.
Thank you, Andrew. Moving on, Surinder, you had a long afternoon yesterday. You have a mic? It was summarised right around the room, really, the different disciplines involved in the different African nations. So how would you actually summarise the framework of motorsport across Africa?
Africa...
Close. Surinder, close.
Oh, okay, close. Yes, thank you. Yesterday, like you said, it was summarized quite well by all the countries. We gave them a few minutes to tell us about what disciplines they have. And what we did discover is that very few countries have complete grassroots disciplines. Most of them are quite advanced in their sport, and karting was the only discipline that was like an entrance level discipline. And karting now is being done by a lot of countries with this grant program, but previously South Africa is the biggest karting partner. We discovered that Zimbabwe also has a good karting circuit, 2 karting circuits in Zimbabwe, and then Mozambique had a good karting program, and Kenya has a good karting program. The other countries don't really have karting race. No, so I beg your pardon, Madagascar has a karting program, if I'm correct. And I don't believe any other country has a karting circuit as such.
If I can jump in there,
I beg your pardon, Tunisia.
I believe we're due to hear about a new program from the Rwandan Automobile Club tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you. Tomorrow also Rwanda, we launch karting program. So our program is to start with the schools, with young people, and we hope by end of next year we have also our own circuit, karting circuit. Thank you.
And can we ask the other ASNs in the room, and Surinder, you might jump in as well, on an ASN by ASN basis, what sort of karting facilities and activities do we have? Because I think we all agree that is the logical first point or entry point for motorsport, as Andrew said.
Yeah, yesterday South Africa advised us that they have 6 good karting circuits in South Africa, and they have quite a lot of license holders in karting. So obviously that is the biggest partner. Then other countries have a certain amount of license holders. I think the figures we heard yesterday were 50 or 60, etc. license holders in karting. So karting definitely is the only entrance level that we have in the continent. And then the next level being sort of like a cross-car, autocross type gravel circuit. And that's being practiced in South Africa, in Kenya. And then in other countries we have circuit racing. Now circuit racing doesn't really have a small framework of entry level. But you know, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, South Africa is very big, and this is all the circuit racing countries.
Okay, and you touched on cross-car. We've got Carlos with us. Perhaps you could inform us a little bit more about this new initiative that the FIA is developing.
Yes, I think, sorry, I'll get up and start my presentation, but before we started, I think it's very important to go back, as Graham mentioned, 4 years ago, 2014, when we started to go around the world and visiting all ASNs, all the countries, looking around what was happening. At that time, we very quickly realized that something was missing on an entry level and a grassroots motorsport to cover basically the area of the closed road or the off-road area, because karting, we all agree that is a basic pathway for drivers heading for circuit, but there was nothing strong to get into the rally pathway. So that's why very quickly we realized we had to find something, and looking around we did found clearly that in Europe we had this type of solution that it has to be put together and exported. So I think Sela, could I go to? So it's been a very long journey to get into this point, but honestly a very satisfying one, because of the reaction from all the ASNs where we had to speak about this project. So clearly our aim with this X-National Crosscar project was to provide something to complete and reinforce the motorsport pyramid, and more particularly in countries where there are difficulties to have different facilities. So what you're going to see tomorrow is a demonstration of the 2 crosscars that we got here outside on show, there are 2 types of a car, one a senior car and what we call a junior car that you will see in action tomorrow. This has been promoted and demonstrated in all the FIA regional congresses. To give you, to starting with a flavor, we're going to launch a video which I think speaks for themselves.
Not many people know actually, but my career has started in autocross many years ago when I was 17 years old. That's why still now I have such a huge passion for this sport, and especially for the crosscar category, which are really funny buggies to drive, which give a good sound, good sensation. Yeah, there's a lot to learn from, where I got much experience, which I could take over to the rallying as well, especially for drifting, driving sideways, driving in the mud on difficult conditions. So it's something really special, and it's something which you can do with a really small budget, because the machines are not very expensive, yeah, it's very popular as well. So you have many competitors, and you just enjoy the racing with your family, have fun, and it's quite relaxed as well. So that's why I love it so much.
Okay, I think you have seen it. I don't know, honestly, before we did this race, I didn't knew it, that Thierry Neuville's background was coming from cross cars. And now he's a guy who is fighting for the FIA World Rally Championship. So I think it's a clear message that the cross car are playing a big role for the drivers. Basically, the assets or the important things of the cross car project is that it's very affordable in terms of, as Andrew has mentioned, at the lowest cost, not the low cost, but the lowest cost. And it's also the target drivers are for any age, as is shown in all the countries that this discipline is run, is open to any age. And that clearly, again, how Thierry Neuville said, this is good to play a very big, let me say, part of the training for young drivers. That was what it found it was missing on our pyramid. Basically, this, as we will see later, this project aims to work as karting works for circuits. So this is important because I think it opens a new way to bring drivers to our motorsport. Basically, they are, in general, they are, we can say they are very low purchasing cost cars, but very easy to maintain, a very, very low running cost, what we will see later. What, one step further is that we had worked during these 4 years to bring something that could come to reality, and that's what we got. Technical regulations have been dropped up that to allow ASNs or to allow manufacturers to construct these cars in a very easy way. As I said, it should work as karting, it should work as the rally pathway. This is what we intended to. One level for young drivers as junior categories, as karting junior categories to allow the drivers to choose, or even circuit pathway or the rally pathway, and another one for 15 years old to allow them to get entry to the cross car world and get experience to go to the further on the rally. Oh. Something missing. Okay, this is, oh, sorry, go back. This is one of the important things we want to speak with you and to send a message to this meeting. We have to explore, or you have to explore the local production. These cars are, as we said, they are very easy to build. They are, in a certain way, they are old-fashioned, you know, multi-tubular steel frame, single seat, the rear engine, very simple. Okay, that means there is not a high tech of engineering to construct to this type of car. So one of the success of this car will be if it can be produced locally or regionally. So I will recommend you to explore this way. The technical guidelines that we will provide you, that is available to all of you, that will allow you to construct or to allow you to convince someone to construct these cars in a very easy way. So that's what we mean. Please explore this local production because it will have a very big impact on the development of this category. In terms of taxes, in terms of transportation costs, it's impossible that one manufacturer from Europe could sell cars here in Africa or all the way around. So it's important that you find this way. And to get to this point, we can assure you that all the European manufacturers, all the 60 manufacturers are open to discuss this matter and to get, let me say, joint ventures, to get into joint ventures to any country to allow this type of production. Where you're going to find all this information, we had opened a specific platform, and this is the contact details. One of the emails to contact us for any information. And a registration platform, this is the link, where you will see that you can register and find all the information we had developed to help you on the development of this project. What you are going to find on this platform, you're going to find sporting guidelines, technical guidelines, safety, all the safety standards on the FIA, circuit handbook which could allow you to construct or to recommend how to construct cross-car circuits, and also a marketing guidelines to run out this XC National Gas Project. And that's all for me. For the moment, open to any question. Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. We might come with some questions, and if I can ask a question of the room, which ASNs would be interested, with a show of hands first, in implementing cross-car within your country? So quite a bit of demand, and if I can ask, we might hand the microphone over, how would you propose to implement it? What sort of competitions would you look at?
Just a question first, which is relevant. I think last year in Geneva it was indicated that FIA might be supplying a jig to manufacture these frames. Is that still correct?
Not exactly. We had evaluated this possibility, but that means the freeness to develop in a certain way or to allow to work in our sense in a certain way will be closer if we provide this jig. What is, as I mentioned, manufacturers are already open to get joint ventures, and one of them are to provide jigs to countries and to transfer all the know-how, how to construct this car on the country.
Okay, thank you. And then just to answer the question here, yes, we would be keen, obviously, like we mentioned, we lost rallying, unfortunately, through various circumstances, and we would look at this as a ground route to get back into rallying and get the interest back, because we can run this at our circuit venue and get the interest and get back into rallying through this.
Andrew pointed out, it's completely right. I didn't mention the two cars you're going to see. There are two different type of level of car, but both cars are exactly the same. The unique difference in between them is the engine. It's the performance of the engine, the power.
Yeah, my area, or should I say, our association would be interested in rallycross and off-road for the F-Card.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Yes, what I'm saying is this. We are interested in having rallycross and off-road. That is to use it X-Cross for rallycross and for off-road.
So development for those disciplines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have go-kart right now that we want to move to the next stage, and that is rallycross. We have off-road already, but we don't have rally cars. So this would be an alternative.
This is the aim.
Exactly.
This is the aim, because there is no way today that we can bring a young driver in a rally car or in even a certain type of rallycross car. So this XC cross car is precisely dedicated to this type of drivers with a younger age that could enter the batch weight for rallies. Because the feedback that the cars are providing to the driver is the proper one to develop as a rally driver or rallycross driver.
Carol, we wanted to share with you something. On this website, can we upload some of the videos that we have? For example, in Uganda, we actually have this concept, and we have some of what we would call the cross cars running. We've been able to share some of these videos with Vincent, and I thought he would be here, Carlos Vicente, the one we met in Geneva and we talked about it. But I wanted to see how we can share this with the technical team so that they can see. We are not saying we are going to do it because we are already in motion doing it. Actually, we are racing it so that we get the specific technicalities. Talking about the entry into motorsport, what we do in Uganda, we have what we call motocross. From motocross, you go into, we call them buggies, not so? In our country, but they could qualify as cross cars. Then from there, we got autocross. So we have a line through which we move. But we wanted to see how we can share with you what we have so that we can get help because we are already in transition. Thank you.
I'm sure very, very happy to receive any feedback or any information to complement our project and to see how we can develop. But this is what has happened in Europe. In Europe, the cross car, which is called differently in many countries, in France it's called the sprint car, in Italy car cross, speed cars or whatsoever. There are many names of them, and now at least we have found a way to call it in the same way. This is a transition situation that we had to face. Many countries had already some type of cross cars that you have to look around if they want to continue with their own idea or their own type of cars as you. There's nothing against of that. But at the end, what we had to achieve with this is to unify criteria with all the manufacturers to have a worldwide concept.
Surinder, you had a comment?
Yeah,
on behalf
I
of the
just would like to ask Carlos if on the platform, are there any drawings available that we could show manufacturers in South Africa, Zimbabwe and Kenya to build the frame? Are the drawings on the website?
Yes, you will find on the technical regulations all the drawing examples. There are not specific drawings with measurements, but going through the regulations, you will see on the drawings as example, we can see that all the manufacturers get into the point to produce the same type of car.
Just to go on from what Surinder said and to answer Ralph's question, we have been in touch with a manufacturer in Europe who will license us to produce that in Australia. So that can happen. So they'll give you the drawings and the licensing to produce it in your own country. It gets rid of transport, duties, all that sort of stuff, so makes it easier. Also provides an industry in your country which you can use with government saying, look what motorsport is doing for the economy. So it's very, very important. The other thing with Crosscar, and I know this through Formula 4, is they're built with the same engine, the same specs. So you can actually compete from country to country without having different regulations on the engine size and so on. So they're all built to one standard, that's correct. So therefore you compete. It's about developing your drivers, not making the carts go any faster. So it's important that if you're going to do that, you don't have different manufacturers. We're going to have one manufacturer with one engine supplier in Australia, just like we do with Formula 4 through the FIA system.
Thanks, Andrew. We might wrap up Crosscar, but we are going to see a little bit more about how to set up a competition. But obviously there's great interest within the room, so thank you to Carlos. And it's worth noting as well, there may be support available via the Sport Grant program, Kate, I think. It's certainly an opportunity there to expand your entry-level motorsport.
Okay, Surinder, could we come back to you again, please? We saw yesterday in your meeting that drifting is starting to develop across Africa. And we just wonder what your thoughts are. Is this going to become a major discipline across the African nations, drifting?
Yes, definitely. In my opinion, drifting is going to become a much bigger discipline in Africa because drifting doesn't really require a full circuit, and you could adapt a parking lot or a wide open road, or something like in Uganda they have a big parking lot outside the stadium. Something like that could easily be adopted to drifting. And it certainly looks like a very exciting sport. I mean, Tunisia was telling us yesterday that they have adopted it and it's catching on like very fast. So South Africa does drifting. You do, Adrian?
Yes, that's correct, Surinder.
Yeah.
We've got a national championship. It's referred to as the Super Drift Championship. And it's actually quite a funny story because we've got a professional promoter for the series. And I think it was in 2012, they actually spoke to me when they heard that I was going to be at the FIA General Assembly in Paris, and they said, well, can you just find out a bit more from the FIA as to, you know, any stuff we can learn from the FIA? And I spoke to a couple of people at the General Assembly, and nobody knew what I was talking about. And now it's subsequently been embraced by the FIA. So it's working well in South Africa. The numbers have kind of leveled off now, and I think that's more a sign of the local economy than anything. But it's still very popular.
Thank you. John?
Eve, we've heard a lot about rallying already this weekend. I understand there's a number of issues, and it's certainly a big part of the sport, or the primary part of the sport in Africa. Can you share perhaps what you're doing from an FIA perspective as rally director, looking at regional championships and the new pyramid?
Yes, first thing I want to say is that we want to work really closely with the ASNs and with the regions to see how we have to develop a rally. We know that the society is changing very fast, and it will affect also rallying. That is something that we really have to take in account. What we can bring also to the ASNs in the region is the fact that we are working worldwide, and then we are able to see what are the best practices around the world, and to have a really out-of-the-box view with the different regions to really try to have successful championships. We fix some priorities. I will say the first one is rally car pyramid. We'll come back later on it. But also how we can bring some new drivers, young drivers, to the regional rallies, and then trying to bring them after at the highest level possible. But also we have to work on the format on the regional rallies together with the regions. And also one thing that really we have to work on, it's really to work on promotion and communication, and to be sure that everybody knows which kind of championship we have in each region.
Terrific, very good answer. I think, Jerome, we're going to hear some more from you now. If you'd like to come forward and provide some more explanation. There may be some questions on rallying, although I know we've already covered it in some detail.
Yes, just to introduce Jérôme. It's a new member of my team. He's a proof that we are really investing and putting energy on a regional rally. He's now the regional rally category manager for FIA.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm really pleased to be with you to show you the new rally car pyramid, which was voted by the last World Motorsport Council. Oh, it's working, great. First, we have to look at the current situation. Over the years, we noticed that there are less and less FIA cars in regional and national events. Why? Because the cars are getting older. That's a fact, and the manufacturers homologate less and less cars, and we will see that in the next slide. Also, in the same time, we see a development of national homologations, which are often at the expense of safety, with sometimes lowest level of safety on the cars. And those cars try to be cheaper than FIA cars, but that's not always the case. If we have a look to the homologated cars with the current FIA regulations, we have 4 cars in R1. R1 is not so popular in Africa because these cars only run on tarmac. We have 10 cars homologated in R2 and R3, which are also two-wheel drives, and 6 models homologated in R5. And now if we have a look to the potential, it's not so good for the little categories, as we have not a lot of potential homologations. It's better for the R5. R5 is really popular, and we can see more projects than the cars already available on the market at the moment. Starting from that, we wanted to establish a pyramid which would be similar to the circuit pyramid. If you look at what's happening in the single-seaters from the Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1, we will try to do the same with the rally cars. Also, we want to make things more simple. At the moment, there are a lot of categories, groups, classes, and we want to make something more simple and more easier to understand for the public, the fans, the media. We want to have some cars which would be affordable for the FIA championships, but also for the national competitions. And also we think that we have to link the production cost of the rally cars with the local economy, and not only rely on the European manufacturers. We have to create products that can be homologated worldwide through the FIA, but also through the ASNs. And for that, we have to give regional tuners the capacity to develop cars that can be homologated. Also, the new pyramid will be linked with the license structure, which will come in a few months, I would say. So before watching the new pyramid, let's have a look to the current one. We start with the first layer. The first layer is the two-wheel drive cars, and we have at the bottom of the pyramid the RC5, which is mainly the R1 cars. You don't have so many in Africa. I don't think you have actually. And after the RC4 and the RC3 are also two-wheel drive cars, more sophisticated, more powerful, more performant. And you can see there are a lot of classes for all these cars. The second layer for the actual pyramid is the four-wheel drive cars. The RC2 includes the R5, the very popular in Africa NR4, and also the new R4 kit. And of course, at the top of the pyramid, we have the World Rally cars that we all hope to see one day in action at the Safari Rally. So now let's discover the new pyramid. I have to say something important before. All these cars are homologated by manufacturers at the moment. So the new pyramid, we still start with the two-wheel drive level. Now we want to have two models, one access and one performance model. And also we will have a second layer for four-wheel drive cars with another access model, a performance model, and at the top the WRC. So now for the smallest cars, we will call them Rally 5, and it will be based on the R1 regulations which were voted in last June. The new R1 regulation is much more, gives much more freedom than previously. You can choose any gearbox and fit it in your car. You can choose any suspension. You don't have to buy a fully homologated product. And the next level is the Rally 4. And the good thing is that from a Rally 5, you can build a Rally 4. You can upgrade the car, just like the Group N and Group A that we had in the 80s and 90s. If a young driver starts with a Rally 5, he will be able to make some evolutions on his car to reach the Rally 4 category when he will get more experience and more money. The target price are around 30,000 euros for the Rally 5 and 75,000 euros for the Rally 4. These prices are European price, and we expect them to be much lower in local markets. So, of course, we expect them to be lower in Africa. Now, let's have a look to the four-wheel drive. And once again, these cars can be homologated from the manufacturer. The manufacturer will homologate a safety package with the roll cage and the seat brackets and the harness brackets. But after, there is a real freedom for the tuners to build their cars from the safety package. Now let's talk about the four-wheel drive. The R5 cars, which we'll now call them Rally 2, will still be the performance product in four-wheel drive. The category is very popular with more than 700 cars on the market at the moment, used all over the world, but not so much in Africa. So that's why we decided to create a new category, which we'll call Rally 3. Big surprise. And at the moment, we are working to define the technical concept of Rally 3. we know what we want, but we don't know exactly what the car will look like. We just know that we want a fun to drive car. Lightweight, around 1,000 kilos, with a level of performance which will be controlled, around 200 horsepower. And the main target will be really the pleasure for the driver, to get something really fun to drive. And the price will have to be something really affordable, as we target a price of around 100,000 euros, much cheaper than an R5 car, which is 230,000 euros. Again, the Rally 3 cars will be homologated by tuners, as the Rally 2 will remain for manufacturers. And at the top, the Rally 1 will end the pass with the incredible World Rally cars. So this is the new pyramid. Yves and I are there to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome and Yves. Surinder, have you got a question, comment?
Yes. Will this new pyramid and categories be in the 2019 regional rally regulations?
You can run some Rally 5 and Rally 4 from 2019. Rally 3 is intended to start in 2020. And of course, Rally 2, you can run it when you want.
This is the target for sure. We need to keep for some years the classes like we have for the moment. But the good thing is the classes will be as the same as the name of the cars. RC5 class will be with Rally 5 car, and it will be the main car of the RC5 class. Like you saw in the current situation, we have a lot of cars around the world, different kind of cars. And the idea is that these different categories will be deleted in the pyramid step by step. We are not able to do it everything on the first year, but for sure we will introduce in 2019, January 2019, this pyramid. And some steps, like I will take Rally 2 with the current R5 car will be there like it's written there. Rally 3 doesn't exist for the moment, then we will have to wait 2020. I hope to have the Rally 3 category. But some categories will be there for sure. Rally 5, it exists. Rally 2, it exists. Rally 4, it exists. And step by step we'll introduce and in some years the classes that we know for the moment will disappear and we will only keep these names.
I see in this new classes the N4 car is not categorized at all. And I assume that most of the N4 cars homologation will be expired by then. Yeah? Now, in the African continent, for example, in our regional rallies, most of the bulk of the cars are N4 cars. And if they do finally invest and adopt them with FT3 tanks, then would the Rally Commission consider an application from Africa for an extension of homologation on N4 cars?
It's still the case in Africa for some cars who are out of homologation have, thanks to the sporting code, some extension. And it will be the case for sure. From what we see now, it's Group N cars will disappear. I cannot tell you when. It's not tomorrow for sure. And this new Rally 3 category is really the category we have to replace the N4 cars. It's really the idea to replace later this N4 category, because N4 was based on cars who were produced by manufacturers, and manufacturers are not building so many now 2-liter turbo four-wheel drive cars. And we had to find really a solution to replace that, and Rally 3 will be the solution, we think.
Okay, we have one question here. We might make this, we've got two questions, sorry, I'll come over here first. We might make these the only two questions for rallying, because I know even Jerome are around for the next 2 days as well, so we do have some other things to cover.
Thank you very much. The Eureka R4 cars that has been promoted in the recent year or two, where does that fit in the pyramid?
It's like, no, it's in the RC2 class. RC2 class will still exist because we have a lot of cars. Like N4 is RC2 for the moment. But in the future, I will say RC2, the main car for RC2 will be the Rally 2 but still we will keep the RC2 class like we had for the moment. And in the RC2 class, you will have N4, N4, R5, R4 kit, and the Group N cars that we have for the moment inside this class, like it is for the moment.
Look, I think we have one more question here.
Hello.
It's on. Yep. It's on.
My question is, currently on the championship, we do have an R5 with a sequential gearbox. And when you look at that car, it's got more advantages on to the others. And there's some crews do have a sequential gearbox in the Evo X's and some homologated cars other than the gearbox. So come next year, is it possible the FIA to allow on the championship those with the sequential gearbox also to participate with their gearbox, and they are eligible to qualify to score on the ARC or regional championship?
I want to say there is a technical working group. You can always ask to the technical working group if they want to allow sequential gearboxes in Group N4 cars, but I don't think it's the ID. But it's always possible to submit the ID to the technical working group who will work on it and give an answer to the question.
Okay, thanks Eve and thanks Jerome. Maybe Eve, stay there, and Jerome, you can have a seat. Please thank him for his presentation and a lot of interest, I'm sure. Thanks, Jerome. We'll continue with rally briefly. If I can invite Abdul to come forward and give us an indication about a very popular and successful development program that's running here in the rally space in Africa at the moment. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, FIA President, Deputy President, CAMS, Africa Vice President, national bodies across the continent, my friends and fans. To me, this is a very, very high platform in my rallying career. I never thought I would get to this stage where I'm recognized by the World Motorsport Body for what I have done and I carry on doing. Briefly, my name is Abdul Sidi. I started rallying at a very late age. I was 35, and I was actually pushed into a rally car by Ian Duncan, as you all know. Said, come on, you can navigate Peter Hayes, a Toyota KE30. There's a rally over the weekend, Coca-Cola rally, 1,800 kilometers. I said, there is no way. I can't. I've never held pace notes, road book, never sat in a rally car, and I don't think I would be able to do it. But eventually he managed to push me, and I got into the rally car. Coca-Cola rally was 1,800 kilometers over 2 days, 1 night. And thank God, I don't know, Peter was so kind. He didn't point fingers at me. We finished, and we finished 18th overall out of about 60 cars. And that was my dream to now carry on with motorsport. I started from like a nursery school, went into primary, secondary, university. I was able to navigate Kenyan champions. I did 18 safaris, finished 15. The best result, to me, I still brag about it, is when we finished 4th overall when Kenya was WRC event, 4th overall and winning the Group N class, which was really important during that period. And the person who followed us was the late Richard Barnes. Sad, he's no more. But yes, it's a very good record when you say 15 out of 18 safaris. Navigated most of the champions in Kenya. I also navigated Satwan Singh, 7 times champion from Zambia in Uganda Rally. I also navigated Grégoire de Mavius from Belgium in the Safari Rally. Those are big, big steps for me. Along that period, I was a great fan before I started getting into a rally car, and we used to go and watch rallies from Nairobi to Mombasa, 500 kilometers, leave early in the morning, evening you're in Mombasa, rally overnight, first thing in the morning back into Nairobi, 1,000 kilometers, no rest, come. And I had a friend who was an editor at Nation newspapers, which is a leading newspaper in Kenya. He says, come on, you can write for us. We don't have a motorsport correspondent. I said, no. This thing needs clever people and well-educated. He said, no, you can, because personally I didn't believe in myself, and I didn't have, and I don't have that sort of education. And he pushed me, and he got me a big typewriter. 300 words, about 5 hours.
Abdul, sorry to jump in if I can, because we are a little bit pushed for time. Perhaps if you could talk about the program you're running now within the region.
Okay, so I do press offices for countries across the continent, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya, and it's been great. But in 2010, I retired. I retired because I started having back problems, and I related that to motorsport, but fortunately it wasn't the sport itself. But during that period, I met few boys, young boys, sons of the former rally drivers, and said, well, please teach us how to get into a rally car and how to be a navigator or driver. I thought to myself, I'll speak to these guys, hear from one ear, out of the other, and they'll disappear. But I was mistaken. Phineas Kimathi, the chairman of Kenya Motorsports Federation, he runs a restaurant, he gave me a venue, and every Saturday for 2 hours, I started now teaching people. First Saturday, there were 7. Second Saturday, there were 25. Third Saturday, there were 45. The fourth Saturday, 98, and I couldn't believe myself. The seventh Saturday, there was a rally in Eldoret, and there were 7 new cars and 14 new competitors. To me, that really pushed me. I said, no, this is the thing. So I managed to now expand from 2010. I've been doing it. I've spread my wings in Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and I really appreciate Nizar, Giovanni, Dusman, Christian. They've given me really big support. Phineas Kimathi, Kenya Motorsports Federation. I've got 60 students or now rally drivers in Kenya. Kugu Panasar is one of my students. He's already won the African Rally Championship as a navigator. I've got a young crew, Tuta Mionki and Eric Bengi, who finished 5th in the safari. They're lying 4th overall. I've got thousands of marshals. I've got lots of drivers, navigators across the continent. And to all that, I feel really proud. I do it for free of charge. I don't charge. And to me, I'm blessed. Because the way I started without paying anybody to teach me or to buy me to teach me or to guide me. I did it myself. I've seen the world. I've rallied across Africa. I've rallied up to Malaysia. I've been in the big teams in Safari, Toyota, Nissan, Daihatsu, Mazda, all that. To me, I've really played Premier League for Liverpools and Manchesters in motorsport, and I really feel good.
Okay, Abdul, thank you. I think we might leave it there, but thank you very much. It's a wonderful program, obviously leaving a very, very important legacy for the region and for rallying, and you've made a wonderful contribution, so thank you. And we might touch on things a little bit more tomorrow in the licensing management and competency framework session. So thank you. Please, round of applause for Abdul.
Thank you.
Surinder, again from yesterday, we heard about the various facilities now available across Africa, the various nations. Which part of the sport do you think, with the availability of these facilities, do you think is going to be easiest to develop across Africa, and why do you think that's going to be the easiest discipline to develop? Which is going to grow first, grow fastest?
The largest discipline in growth is got to be karting. But the existing disciplines we have, like rallying, also have considerable growth in countries. Certainly, I mean, the economy of a country obviously affects rally growth. South Africa used to have a field of up to 50 to 60 cars in their rally program, with a lot of amateurs, which has now gone down to about 30 cars in their regional rallies. So it's all due to economics. Certainly, karting is growing and rallying is growing. Those are the two aspects, in my opinion, growing very fast.
And growth in facilities?
No, growth in facilities, investment in facilities is not as good as we would like it to be. Certainly, there is very little private investment. ASNs like Zimbabwe are trying to invest and use the grant program to improve their facilities. But there's no new investment in facilities other than maybe South Africa.
Thanks, Surinder. We might come back to the funding opportunities shortly. Carlos, if we can ask you, again, I know you have a video to come shortly. In terms of facilities and setting up a cross-car competition, could you perhaps talk us through what is entailed in that?
Yes, I think we can launch this video that can answer with itself this question. Sela, we could? Thank you. Well, this is one of the main targets with our projects. And that's what I'm saying. We could assure that part of this project, or the main part of this project, is devoted for Africa. Because it started here, and I think it's completely focused on the real situation. This is a video, so you can, I can promise you, it's a video, we'll see it going in motion. And this is a very good example how a cross-car circuit can be built. This is a very simple gravel surface. This also shows that the XC cross-car could go to any type of surface, but I will be honestly, it would be a very nice surprise if we got a nice cross-car ice racing in Africa, but I don't think it's the right way. And this is an example how easy facilities can be constructed for a cross-car. Another point, this is a very simple one that could be done with a bulldozer. There is not a problem to try out. This circuit approximately has got 1,000 meters. It's very wide, okay? It could be more narrow. And another important point to the development of the category and this type of facilities is if you spot it, there is just five marshal posts to run the event, plus a race direction. That means simple facility, easy to run, and easy to organize events. That's one of the key points also for our project.
Perfect, and I think that's a great illustration, and that you would consider probably a large facility for a cross-car event. We've seen some of the demonstrations happen in car parks and very small areas. Andrew, the role of the FIA and the ASN Development Task Force in development of facilities, what in your view is the role of an ASN, and where can the FIA support, do you think, for the region developing facilities for cross-car and other disciplines?
It is important for the ASN to be hands-on in the initial development of any circuit infrastructure. John mentioned facility, which is the way that we'd like to address it. It's not a circuit, but a facility, which means that you have various functions, whereas rallycross, cross-car, or even speedway, for example. So it's important to design something that is that. There is the grant program for a feasibility and facility. We do have a couple of circuit constructors that will help in the initial setup and design of facilities. But as I said, there is a grant program for facilities, and I would encourage you to take advantage. And it's not a single year project. It could take you 2 or 3 years with the various grants, but it's there. And Graham Stoker, who is the headmaster of all our grants, because he's been instrumental in obtaining money from the foundation, which isn't very easy, but he has been successful. I'd like to throw it over to Graham and explain how the grant program will work for us as ASNs in the future.
Graham?
Yes.
Headmaster?
I don't know about the description, but...
Sorry.
Kate's next to me, actually. If you've got any queries, talk to Kate. In the past, because the money came from the foundation in London, it was delivered with certain charitable requirements attached to it. So it had to be safety or sustainability. We put that into a pot now, but we top it up with other funds that come from the FIA Championships. We have about, in total, I would have thought when you look at all the indirect benefits as well as the direct, I think we're probably distributing around about €5 million a year. Because there's a lot more freedom, if you want to get involved in some form of venue project, you can come, talk to Kate, make an application. I mean, that would fall under the ASN, the structure and management side of things. Typically, as you know, those of you who've had experience of it, you have to attract investors, you have to deal with landowners, you probably need an architect, you probably need some specialist advisors, for instance, on noise and impact and things like this. This all tends to go into a report, which is your initial document, which you take out and you show people. You then try and get a funding cocktail together. That might involve going to see the government, going to see some commercial partners. That document has to be punchy and focused and argue your case. The grant can help with that, and experts are there who can do that. So, yes, that's the key to starting the project, really, is to get this key document in place, and there's...
Thanks, Graham and Andrew. I think it's a good point. The ASN's role, as much as many facilities may not be owned or controlled by ASNs, there is a significant role for ASNs to play in developing new facilities and for all disciplines, and certainly the FIA, I think we can say, is prepared to assist as much as possible. So thank you. Surinder, just to wrap up, we've heard a lot, different disciplines. What do you see as the main areas of progress in the region, and perhaps some of the challenges and the things that you'd like to work on from here?
In the last 6 years, the FIA, 8 years, I beg your pardon, of under Jean Todt and Graham Stoker, the progress on the continent has been immense. We actually feel like a family, and we feel that the FIA has empowered us to make progress. And today we've heard from several aspects of the ASN Development Task Force actually saying that we will come and help you for free. We will come to your ASN and we will give you a full report about how your ASN is running, and they will come with the experts and they'll do it for free. That is definitely big progress. And then the other thing that we also heard from Jacques Berger was that the Rally Safety Task Force is willing to come at the FIA's expense to any event in Africa on invitation to come and give a full assessment of what the safety standards are and how they can improve them. Now, that is big progress for the continent. That is fantastic for the continent. And if you, the clubs, don't use this fantastic support that the ASN Development Department is giving you, then I'm afraid you're the losers. You really have to benefit from all these programs that have been put into place by the very able management team of the FIA, and I think this is incredible for the future for Africa. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Surinder. A round of applause, please, for our guests and for Graham as well. Any more questions, comments? Otherwise, Fred, I think we're done. Andrew? Oh, no, over here. There's one there. I've got a microphone. I'll come to you.
Okay, thank you so much. This goes to Carol. I would like to know what the average cost of a cross car is, like in your calculation. And then two, you've talked about the truck size being maybe 100 meters wide. Did you say 1,000 or 100? And then
no,
what is the length?
1,000 meters long.
Okay, and is that the square, or it is just the width or length?
No, the normal, what we propose on the circuit handbook, that the circuit should have 800 meters long to 1.4 kilometers long. Then on wide, there are very many different possibilities. I think it's in between 10 to 12 meters wide. That's maximum.
And the average cost?
Well, that depends of the land, it depends on many conditions, because depend how you have to protect the outside perimeter for the public, etc. That is difficult to assess a cost for this type of circuits. For the cost of the cars, if we're talking about European market, we said that these cars are actually in the range of 18,000 euros to 20,000 euros maximum.
Okay, I think that answers the questions. Anything more on Crosscar or anything else before we wrap up? No? Okay, thank you for your contribution. Please thank our guests for their contribution. And Fred, over to you.
Well, thank you very much. So very quickly, unfortunately, the person in charge of the GT category and drifting was not able to come here. Just I would like to give you a few reminders of two huge programs and initiative and championship which are accessible to the ISN. You got an email from my team, from Sport Liaison Office, twice. We send you a reminder about the GT Nations Cup. So GT Nations Cup, so please run the slides, Sela, or if I have the clicker, I can do it, but basically, each ISN are invited to appoint 2 drivers, appoint your crew. All costs are covered, so you just have to send the name of your drivers, and there is only one entry fee at 10,000 euros. You come with the car, with your team support, and all of the other expenses are just taken in charge. So the event, it's in November in Bahrain, is the first time for the FIA to implement this concept, and it's managed by the GT Commission under the presidency of Christian Schart. And SRO, Stéphane Rattel, who was the previous FIA GT promoter. So then you can apply. The presentation will be available through the networks, and you will receive all details. But why I wanted to remind you is that the deadline is now coming soon, Friday, 14 September. That's the deadline for sending your applications on driver's crew, so your driver's crew, and then you have the email of the contact person, so smurray@fia.com, Stuart Murray, so that's the person. So please come, ask any question you may have, but this is a very interesting initiative, and then you can compete under your country. So that's really a nation. So Nations Cup, that does it mean? So I mean, you compete for Uganda, you compete for Botswana, you compete for South Africa, and I think now when we are talking about motorsport is not affordable, by competing in such Nations Cup, then I think you can really demonstrate a clear action of your country and activity in motorsport at a reasonable price. The next discipline and cup I wanted to remind you about is the Intercontinental Drifting Cup. Last year, so the FIA drifting event was staged in Tokyo, the first one. It works so well because Japan, you know, that's where drifting more or less was born. It's a new recognized discipline at the FIA. And now, just I read at the same time. So, you know, even promoter no accepting entries, and all ISNs are asked to contact their leading drivers to encourage them to participate. So entries close at the end of August, and as part of the global strategy of the FIA, regional events from 2020 will be organized. So if you are interested to drifting, please send an email again to Stuart, and you also you can also have a look on the FIA webpage, www.fiadriftingcup.com. So I don't go into more detail because that's not really my expertise. Would like to thank all speakers, so please applaud them. I hope it was an interesting session. So we have now a small coffee break, and just we come back again for the final session of the day. I promise you that John and Colin will do it in an interactive way, and it will be about commercializing the ISN assets, because you know that without money, organizing competitions, motorsport competitions, it's difficult, and so maybe it will be helpful for you to work and in small group as well on your assets in the different ISNs. Maybe you want to say a few words just describing what will happen after.
Sure, we will introduce it when we come back, but the intention of the session is to work with you to help you develop or get an understanding of what some of the assets are within your ASN. So it's easy to say from the outside, we want to develop our ASNs and work on commercializing them, but there's a process that we think we need to follow, building a foundation, developing the assets once we've identified them, and then growing. So that's the process that we'll follow. It'll take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how many assets we can find, but we think you will find it worthwhile. We hope. Fred?
Thank you. The coffee available outside, and please come back at around 4:15, and then you will come into the room. You can bring your coffee in, and then we'll have a nice 1 hour with you on the commercializing ISN assets. Thank you. Thank you very much.